Hello and welcome to the TechGig podcast, folks. I am Sukriti Advanshi, your host, and this episode is for cloud builders. All the developers out there, this podcast is a guide to building applications. Organizations are investing in cloud infrastructure to enable the transition of work environments between physical and virtual locations like never before. And they are switching from traditional infrastructure as a service and environments to serverless platform and software as service options to increase employee productivity and business growth. Therefore, it is very important that ever than before, developers to understand the needs and the right infrastructure that will suit businesses to lay the technological foundation for the future. And to facilitate the conversation, I have with me Raman Sharma, Vice President, Product Marketing at DigitalOcean. Raman leads the product marketing, customer research, developer relations, and community engagement programs for DigitalOcean. He's experienced in developer tools, infrastructure as service, platform as service, and software as service for enterprises as well as for startups. Welcome to the show, Raman.
Thanks for having me, Sukriti. It's a pleasure.
Thank you for doing this with us, Raman. Thank you for your time. And without much ado, I'll quickly jump to the question. So the first thing that I would want to know from you is what are the factors that developers should consider when they're trying to build new applications and businesses?
Well, I think there are, basically I would categorize them into two types of factors. One are external factors and then internal factors. So when I talk about external factors, I mean, what problem are you trying to solve? What exactly are you trying to build? What is it that you're trying to do for your customer? Are you building a B2B application? Are you building a consumer application? Are you building developer tools? And then within that context, what is the technical artifact that you're trying to build? Is it a website? Is it a web application? Is it a mobile application? Is it an API first solution? So I think those are external factors that have a lot of bearing on what technology stack you end up choosing and how exactly do you go about building your apps. Second, I would say are internal factors. So that's where you think about what is the technical skill level on the team. Do you have more developer oriented skills on the team, or do you have more ops and system administration related skills? Do you have more design skills? That in turn tends to play a huge role in people deciding which technologies, which programming languages, which tools they should be using to build their applications and businesses. And that also determines a lot of where do you need most help? Is it the technical side of the house? Is it the go-to-market side of the house? Is it design, research, scaling? So that's how I would categorize maybe the factors. And these determine how exactly your journey is going to be.
All right. And when is the lift and shift cloud migration model appropriate?
Well, when we talk about lift and shift, we are really talking about, people who already have existing technology investments. They have significant investment in existing code, existing applications that people are running either on premises in their own data centers or in some cloud. So lift and shift basically means pick something up from where it is already running and then put it elsewhere in a cloud usually. I think it becomes more appropriate. People have more appetite for it when, number one, they have massive investments already. Second, when they have less appetite for code changes, because a lot of people think that rightfully so, a lot of people, when they bring their applications to the cloud, they also take that opportunity to restructure their applications so that they can take full advantage of the cloud. Lift and shift does not allow for that. So people would go for lift and shift when the speed of migration is critical. So I would say a combination of those things, a low appetite for changes, significant on-premises investments, and then a desire to do the migration really quickly. That's when lift and shift becomes, kind of desirable.
And how should developers leverage the infrastructure as service versus platform as service offerings, Raman?
So I think the fundamental difference between infrastructure as a service and platform as a service is that infrastructure as a service provides control. It provides more control to the users in the sense that you can go and make configuration changes on the underlying infrastructure. You can install all the different open source tools that are available to you on that infrastructure. So you basically own it, you manage it. As compared to that, in platform as a service, the focus is more on productivity. How to take the undifferentiated heavy lifting away from the users so that they can focus more on building their apps, their code, their business logic. So I think we tend to sometimes trivialize the comparison. It's not a trivial comparison. There is good enough appetite and good enough demand for both these ways of building applications. My experience has been that it's almost always the preference of the team. If the team has heavy infrastructure and system administration skill within their team, then they will go with infrastructure as a service because it can be cost effective and it can be very powerful because it offers you a lot of flexibility. Similarly, teams that are more development and code focused, that don't want to mess around with underlying infrastructure, they tend to go with PaaS because it allows them to move faster. So, and the way we think about it is that we want to offer people the flexibility of infrastructure as a service, but we also want to offer them the opinionated nature of building applications with PaaS if they know exactly what they want to build. So that's where I feel like the contrast lies.
So, Raman, talking about SaaS solutions, what common challenges do you think developers face when building SaaS solutions, and how they can address them?
Yeah, I think that's a great question because SaaS is very likely the most popular type of application that people are building these days. 10, 15 years ago, it was mobile apps. Right now, it is SaaS applications. Anyone with any idea, they want to express that idea in the form of a SaaS offering. And the problem in building SaaS solutions is that I think there is lack of guidance about, number one, what is the right tech stack that people should be using. There are a plethora of programming languages, so many different options around front-end frameworks, back-end technologies, which database to pick. So I think that there's an overwhelming amount of technology stack decisions that people have to make, and they don't have a lot of guidance around that. Second is within that framework, there are no best practices around building SaaS applications, around architecture, around security, around deployment models. Like we just talked about, PaaS, IaaS, Kubernetes. What are the right technologies to use? Authentication. So a lack of the guidance around these architectural things is also a problem. And the third thing I would say is, even if we help people get started, or you can pick up this technology, we can give you a template on how to get started and so on, I think people have absolutely no idea what their applications are going to look like and what their application infrastructure is going to cost at scale when they have a product market fit, when they don't have 100 users, when they have 100,000 users. What exactly is their tech stack going to cost them? They have absolutely no idea of modeling that out. So I think a combination of these problems makes SaaS solutions challenging. As exciting as it is to build SaaS applications, the journey can sometimes be challenging.
So, Raman, talking about DigitalOcean here, it is one of the fastest growing cloud providers in the world. And you're also building a developer cloud platform, which is loved by startups and medium sized businesses. Tell me, how is DigitalOcean facilitating cloud adoption and personalized learning for developers and businesses?
Yeah, I think I like that personalized learning element of your question because, to be honest, I don't think any other cloud provider makes that a focus. So let me start by saying that the biggest decision that we made early in our life was that we are going to make sure that our product is focused on delighting the user, which means delighting the developer, delighting the system administrator, the infrastructure specialist, as opposed to focusing on this mythical decision maker. So, which means that a lot of decisions that we made around products are about simplicity. We want to reduce the number of things that developers have to worry about. We want to reduce the concept count so that they can get down to the business of building applications. And the second thing that we did was that we knew that this infrastructure as a service business is kind of complex. So we have focused very heavily on developer education. So I don't know whether you know or not, but one claim to fame of DigitalOcean, beyond the simplicity of our product experience, is our technical content. We have more than 3,000 extremely technical, extremely high quality tutorials that cater to all kinds of problems that developers and entrepreneurs and system administrators are facing on a daily basis. And there's a high likelihood that you go to Google or any other search engine and search for one of these problems in these areas. There's a high likelihood that you will end up on one of the DigitalOcean tutorials in the top 5. And that's a very powerful thing. That number one, we are almost solving a problem for a customer even before they have become a customer. And the kind of brand value that is able to generate in the developer community is unmatchable. So simplicity of the product and deep focus on high quality content so that we are able to educate developers both about important contemporary topics and also about how to troubleshoot themselves when they face a specific problem. So those are two areas. Third thing I would say is we have a very intentional focus. We were a startup not too long ago. This was a company built by entrepreneurs, and we realized that we need to pay back. We need to give it back. Now that we are a larger company, we have a program called Hatch, as a part of which we provide some unique benefits to early stage startups and entrepreneurs, which includes quite hefty infrastructure credits that these people can utilize in the journey of building their businesses. And then we also have some sponsorships that we give out infrastructure credits as well as money to open source projects, to people conducting hackathons, to developers meeting together through meetups and stuff like that. So a combination of all of these things is how we not only build amazing products that developers can use, but also create ecosystem programs so that developers and community can come together and help each other.
Lovely. So, Raman, can you also share some customer stories while you are sharing your experiences of personalized learnings?
Yeah, absolutely. So speaking of customers, one customer that I really enjoyed talking to was Whitgear. It's an advertising technology company, and what they have basically done is they utilize machine learning to help TV broadcasters and OTT platforms with ad monetization. And since, as you can see, when you're talking about TV broadcasts and OTT platforms, it's a very bandwidth intensive kind of a workload. So this company has benefited a lot from the very generous bandwidth offering that DigitalOcean has. They are a heavy user of our compute products, and with the combination of their machine learning algorithms and a very generous bandwidth offering, they have been able to build a solution to help broadcasters and OTT platforms to make sure that they are optimally able to utilize the monetization of the small ad buckets that they have. So that's one. The other one that I can think of is a company called Atom Learning. It's basically an online education platform with a specific focus on primary school students. And what they have done is kind of unique. They basically create an online education program which adapts to the skill levels and to the experience of how the students are progressing. If a student is performing rather well compared to the content that they are being served, then the platform will automatically start serving them deeper content and slightly higher level content. And if a student is taking a little bit more time, then the platform gives them a little bit more time. And this company uses our managed Kubernetes platform in addition to our managed databases to kind of build this platform. So just two examples, two very different kinds of examples of the kind of platforms and the kind of offerings that our customers are building.
Very interesting, Raman. These use cases that you've shared are really interesting. And this actually brings us to the end of our conversation. Thank you so much for sharing such insightful, thoughts on how developers can actually build their cloud applications, Raman.
Absolutely.
Audience, thank you
Yeah,
so much. Yes, Raman.
No, I think the only thing I would like to add is, as a company, we have a focus on people who have a builder mindset. Elsewhere, if you look at large technology companies, a lot of focus, rightfully so, is going on large enterprises. And to be honest, that's where big money is. But I think we take specific pride in making sure that, number one, we delight the users of our product, and number two, we are not necessarily about large enterprise IT teams. We are about small product minded teams, people who have a builder mindset. This builder mindset does not need a large team. It could be a single person, it could be a 5-person team, it could be a 20-person team, but they almost always operate with the mindset of building and creating something. That could be an application, that could be a business. And I feel like that's a pretty differentiated way of looking at this landscape of cloud computing. And we take pride in that.
Thanks, Raman. Audience, that was Raman Sharma from DigitalOcean sharing so many insightful things for you. Thank you thank you everyone for joining us for this podcast. Stay tuned to TechGig for all the tech updates and happenings. It's a wrap here. This is your host signing off.